Let's go to New York. And there he is, Donald Trump, who's doing a lot of talking on social media. Yes, Trump and the GOP are reacting to possible pending indictment. Donald Trump took to his social media site, Truth Social, to rant about his possible indictment and arrest, including saying that New York County District Attorney Alvin Bragg should be arrested instead of him. Can you imagine the great New York City Police Department, correctly referred to as New York City's finest, who for the first and only time in history endorsed President me and honored me as Man of the Year. Having to defend and protect the defunders and cop haters of the radical left that want to put their greatest champion and friend in prison for a crime that doesn't exist, all the while the Soros-backed DA allows murderers and other violent criminals to freely roam the sidewalks of New York. Well, that's the statement from Donald Trump. We can fact check it if you need us to. I don't know if you need us to, but we'll move on because the Speaker of the House is reacting. Here we go again, an outrageous abuse of power by a radical DA who lets violent criminals walk as he pursues political vengeance against President Trump. I'm directing relevant committees to immediately investigate if federal funds are being used to subvert our democracy by interfering in elections with politically motivated prosecutions. That Kevin McCarthy, who is he directing? Aren't they directing him? I mean, he's a figurehead, right? Didn't we already establish that? At any rate, McCarthy would further comment during a press conference. Let's watch that.
It doesn't matter what side of the issue you're on. It doesn't matter if this was President Trump or if this was a Democrat. It should be equal justice in America. And stop going after people because you have political differences. I don't think people should protest this, no. And I think President Trump, if you talk to him, he doesn't believe that either. I mean, I think the thing that you may misinterpret when President Trump talks, when someone says that they can protest, he would probably be referring to my tweet. Educate people about what's going on. He's not talking in a harmful way, and nobody should.
Is he for real? Ben, I'm gonna go on with the rest of it, but I do need to pause there and allow you an opportunity to protest.
Yeah, I mean, they always say this, like this is just a standard Republican game. It's just like how when they will say something unbelievably racist, and then after that be like, well, to be clear, I'm not racist. I've never been racist, and I would never say anything racist. It's just like this, where it's like, now I'm saying that people should be very against this and maybe have their voices heard about it, but I'm not saying that people should protest this or interfere with like the legal process or anything like that. It's just they're speaking out of both sides of their mouths because, I mean, I would say they think they're clever enough to evade any type of criminal prosecution for incitement, but the unfortunate reality is that a combination of our legal system and the Democratic Party is so feckless and weak that unfortunately that is enough to evade any sort of legal consequences for what, in my opinion, at least going back to January 6th, I think that should have been considered incitement and charged. And like Donald Trump should be being arrested for completely different reasons. But like trying to call for all of these things, like, and trying to make a big fuss about this, like I feel like they know what they're doing. They're just saying that that's not what they're doing because they want just a teeny tiny bit of like plausible deniability.
Yeah, I mean, raise your hand if you are out there and you actually don't understand what's going on here, okay? And might I say, Ben, another reason to love you, I have not heard the word feckless, and I fell in love with it when Samantha Bee said it. Since she uttered it and got in all that trouble, she should have never apologized. She should have never apologized, okay? I understand it was coupled with another word, but it is what it is. Love that you used that word, and it's now just coming back for me. But you're exactly right. I once left a boyfriend and said, listen, I'm not leaving you, but I am moving to another state. Now you figure out what that means, okay? Let's go on. Concerns of violent reaction to a Trump arrest. One thread on Reddit Saturday, shared by Daily Beast reporter, began by talking about the Patriot Moat. Is this real? Yes. Circle around Mar-a-Lago that would protect Trump. Someone then asked what they would do if the police use helicopters. A reply said that they would shoot the police down. Okay. Response from the police about the issue. The Daily Beast called both the Palm Beach Police and the NYPD. While the former wouldn't respond, the NYPD said their officers were, quote, closely monitoring social media as well as intelligence from federal authorities and other police departments to assess the size of any protests. Let's hope their intelligence is better than that from January 6th, remember? Was anybody talking to anybody? NYPD's response plan. There is a plan in place that would allow the NYPD to deploy about 700 officers in a disorder control from the strategic response group. They would also deploy a level 4 alert, which would ensure 8 officers, 1 sergeant, that would be on alert in every precinct. They didn't say whether the NYPD officers were willing to quit their jobs instead of arresting the former president. Isn't that the crux of the matter here? Part of Donald Trump's Truth Social statement that was not a lie was that there are members of law enforcement, Ben, who, well, they love him.
Yeah, most definitely. And that's kind of one of the harsh, unfortunate realities. I mean, look, we've seen across the country where you have organizations like the Proud Boys and various like white supremacist militias and things like that, that will literally all but directly coordinate with police officers. I mean, if you look at protests across the country, you will see very, very consistently police officers protecting literal Nazis from like counter protesters, or even like if Nazis show up to a drag show, and you have people that are there to be in support of the drag show, who are the police officers protecting? And somehow magically it always ends up being the Nazis. Funny how that works. So that is like an element to truth, but there's really 2 things that are gonna be operating in conflict that exist within the culture of policing. And first and foremost, which I think is gonna be the primary dynamic in any situation like this, is police officers both desire to exert needless authority on people. Like, let's just be real. We see how they act during protests, and it does seem to be that they really enjoy, like large protests because, I mean, a lot of violent people join the police officer force because they want to use, violent force against people. And so there's that dynamic of, I'm the police officer, I define the situation, I'm in control of this, conflicting with the, yeah, I do think that not only the police as an institution, but largely the legal system as well, is designed very specifically to protect people like Donald Trump. We have a system that is very much oriented towards protecting not only capitalists, but wealthy white men, right? Specifically, our entire legal system was literally designed by wealthy white men to protect their status and power over everybody else. And so, like, those 2 things are in conflict with each other. I think a lot of it is probably gonna end up being, if there is protests, basically police officers pushing back against the protesters a little bit, maybe even arresting some of them if they get out of hand or anything like that. But I think there definitely will probably be a general sense of, what are you doing? Why are you protesting us? Don't you realize that we are here to make sure that everything's fine with Trump? Like, it's like, we have your backs. Why are you protesting us in this way? I think is probably gonna be really the vibe. And that is really unfortunate. And it is something that I wish Democrats across this country would grow up and recognize, because like ultimately where we are today, we cannot treat police as though they are a functioning part of any type of democratic system. It seems very clearly that they are very distinct from any elected government, and that unfortunately elected officials are legitimately terrified of police officers when it comes to actually putting in place any type of structural change that would make the situation any better.
Do you recall January 6th that, I'm sure you saw it, there was that one little piece of footage where the officer was actually taking selfies with these derelicts, these insurrectionists, these treasonous people, okay? So I just want you to predict if you can, and I know you're not in the game of predicting things, but you'll play along. Who will have at the end of any arrest day the max number of arrests? Protesters or counter protesters? Who do you think will have the larger total from NYPD if this happens?
Yeah, I mean, if this happens, like, I don't know if there are any counter protests planned. So I think that will really, like, I guess, like, determine that factor. But
I'm gonna stay in the
assuming there's like
house and just watch the perp walk, but I don't know about other people. I'm gonna be right in the
yeah,
house with some popcorn.
yeah. I mean, to me, this seems like the type of thing to not counter protest and like just let them deal with their own business between each other, right? But if there was like a sizable counter protest, like honestly, I would say like 6 right wingers would probably get arrested, and then like 20 counter protesters would get arrested. It's just like my ballpark, but I genuinely have no idea because I do not know if anybody's planning any type of counter protest.
Well, the rule of law shall prevail, Ben, and that means that a brother, Alvin Bragg, must be called up to Capitol Hill, and Jim Jordan and the others are going to have to, question the brother from the Manhattan DA's office about funding for this investigation and is it political?